Hi everyone, I will show my reflection cluster 1 to cluster 4 for my prelim vlog. Reflection cluster 1 Results Astrological character. Some qualities that would describe Jose Rizal are being open-minded, intelligent, and hardworking. Jose Rizal really wanted to have freedom in the Philippines from Spain so that the Filipinos did not have to be controlled by another country. He did not care about himself. He cared more about helping this country. The life of Jose Rizal was a truly inspiring story, not just an ordinary story of a Filipino, but a story of a very intelligent and talented Filipino who is ready to sacrifice his whole life just to give freedom and peace to his family and own national. Jose Rizal, from my own insight, tells me the value of certain things which is important for the success of his life. That is, that is God, family, country, and self. Jose Rizal as an okay person. Dr. Jose Rizal as our national hero not because he died for our country nor sacrificed himself, but because he shows nationalism and patriotism. He protect and fight for us Filipino and writes so many books including El Fili and Noli. It was in the Jew that pen can be words too, not the right word. He, at his light, last bright shows love to us for the Filipinos. Jose Rizal a Gemini. According to Nick Joaquin's Almanac of Manilenius, the Gemini, normally not of the leader type, will seek out and cling to a leader to whom they can subordinate themselves as an goals to which they can move. Likewise, in love and marriage, do the Gemini prove to be most faithful and loyal, being mercurial only of mind but not of heart. Being a hero is not having a power like being invisible. A hero is a person who fights for his, her family, friends, and loved ones. Yes, Dr. Hazarizal is a hero because using his intelligence and artistry, he shows others that Filipinos capable of being free. He fights for freedom, he fights for our rights. He fights for all of us. He sacrificed everything even in his life. That is a Filipino. We will do everything of what it takes. We are all heroes because like Dr. Zerzal, we will do everything for our loved ones. The lesson I get in the poem is that we are all born as heroes. Not literally a hero that have superpowers, but we are heroes in our own way. Rizal achievements. Achievements of Rizal attended the Ateneo de Manila University, earning a Bachelor of Arts. He enrolled in medicine and philosophy and letters at the University of Santo Tomas and then traveled alone to Madrid, Spain, where he continued his studies at the Universidad Central de Madrid, earning the degree of licentiate in medicine. He attended the University of Paris and earned a second doctorate at the University of Heidelberg. Rizal was a polyglot, conversant in at least 10 languages. He was a prolific wit essayist, correspondent, and novelist whose most famous works were his two novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. These are social commentaries on the Philippines that form the nucleus of literature that inspired dissent among peaceful reformists and spurred the militancy of armed revolutionaries against the Spanish colonial authorities. Rizal's genealogy. Jose Rizal's genealogy, a name destined to be a legend on June 28, 1848, were married Mr. Francisco Mercado, aged 30 years and 2 months, and Miss Teodoro Alonso, aged 20 years and 7 months. Jose Protasio Rialonda Alonso Mercado Rizal, our martyr national hero. He was born on June 19, 1861, between 11 and 12 in evening. A few days before the full moon in Calamba on the southwest shore of the picturesque Laguna de Bay. Some 40 miles south of Manila, the name Calamba was derived from Calandamanga. This is probably because the place is known for clay pottery on June 22 rather, 1861. Rizal was baptized by Father Rufino Colantes while Father Pedro Casañas stood as Rizal's God's father. Rizal's parents' new surname. The real name surname of the real surname of the Rizal family was Mercado, which was adopted in 1731 by Domingo Lamco, the paternal great grandfather of Jose Rizal, who was a full-blooded Chinese Rizal. Uh, a family acquired a second surname, Rizal, which was given by a Spanish. Rizal's family, a principalia. The first thing I noticed in Dr. Jose Rizal's life was that he lived a simple one. He did not choose to have a luxurious like like the most of us have wanted. Even before he became under surveillance by the Spaniards, he had lived his life as simple as possible. I think it was the work of his parents and made him like this. I strongly believe that's one lifestyle influenced mostly by their parents. I learned from the life of Rizals the importance of taking part of the parents of their children's morals. Siblings of Jose Rizal, the Mercado Rizal family. The Rizals is considered one of the biggest families during their time. Domingo Lamco, the family's paternal ascendant, was a full-blooded Chinese who came to the Philippines from Amoy, China in the closing years of the 17th century and married a Chinese half-breed by the name of Ines de la Rosa. Researchers revealed that the Mercado Rizal family had also traces of Japanese, Spanish, Malay, and even Negrito blood aside from Chinese. Jose Rizal came from a 13-member family consisting of his parents, Francisco Mercado, the, the second, and Teodora Alonso Rialonda, and 9 sisters and 1 brother. Francisco Mercado, 1818 to 1898. Father of Jose Rizal, who was the youngest of 13 offsprings of Juan and Cecilia Mercado, born in Binyan, Laguna on April 18, 1818, studied in San Jose College, Manila, and died in Manila. Teodora Alonso, 1827 to 1913. Mother of Jose Rizal, who was the second child of Lorenzo and Brida de Quintos. She studied at the Colegio de Santa Rosa. She was a business-minded woman courteous, religious, hardworking, and well-read. She was born in Santa Cruz, Manila on November 14, 1827, and died in 1913 in Manila. Saturnina Rizal, eldest child of the Rizal Alonso marriage, married to Manuel Timoteo Hidalgo of Tanawan, Batangas. Pasyano Rizal, only brother of Jose Rizal and the second child, studied at San Jose College in Manila, became a farmer and later of General of the Philippines Revolution. Nasarcisa Rizal, the third child, married Antonio Lopez at Morong Rizal, a teacher and musician. Olympia Rizal, the fourth child, married Silvestre Ubaldo, died in 1887 from childbirth. Lucio Rizal, the fifth child, married Matriano Herbosa. Maria Rizal, the sixth child, married Daniel Faustino Cruz of Binyan, Laguna. Jose Rizal, the second son and secret child, he was executed by the Spaniards on 1896. Concepcion Rizal, the eighth child, died at the age of 3. Josefa Rizal, the ninth child, an elliptic, died as spinster. Trinidad Rizal, the tenth child, died as spinster and the last of the family to die. Soledad Rizal, the youngest child, married Pantaleon Quinturo. According to intellectual greatness, some qualities that would describe Jose Rizal are being open-minded, intelligent, and hardworking. Jose really wanted to have freedom in the Philippines from pain so that the Filipinos did not have to be controlled by another country. He did not care about himself. He cared more about helping this country. Amidst inferiority complex and dilemma, Radic psychoanalytic diagnosis of Rizal as a victim of an inferiority complex, if taken as a decisive key to his life, strike many as mechanical and even trivializing, if not as symptoms of Radiac's own obsessions. Because of an excess of spirit, Rizal saw his body as adequate, and this in turn influenced his reflection. Cluster 2. Jose Rizal's education. Rizal had his early education in Calamba and Binyan. It was a typical schooling that a son of Ilustrado family received during his time, characterized by the 4 reading, writing, arithmetic, and religion. Instruction was rigid and strict. Knowledge was forced into the mind of pupils by means of the tedious memory and method aided by the teacher's whip. Despite the defects of the Spanish systems of elementary education, Rizal was able to acquire the necessary instruction preparative for college work in Manila. It may be said that Rizal was born a physical weakling, rose to become an intellectual gain, not because of, but rather in spite of instructions obtaining in the Philippines during the last decades of Spanish regime. Jesuit education. The Jesuits were considered the best educators of Spain and perhaps of Europe, and so, when they were permitted to return to the Philippines, Although their power to administer parish, parishes were restricted except in the remote regions of Mindanao, the privilege of founding colleges they had to apply to the city of Manila for subsidies. That is why the college, which began to function the year 1865, was called the Ateneo Municipal. Hmm. Jesus' schools are guided by a spirituality that seeks justice, they write, inspired by the tenets of Catholic social teaching and its intellectual and social justice traditions. A Jesuit education places great emphasis on forming women and men for others. Jesuit influence on Jose Rizal. The Jesuit teacher Francisco de Paula Sanchez was admired by Rizal for being model of uprightness, earnestness, and love for the advancement of his students, and taught this Jesuits who seal Rizal, as knowledge of Spanish advanced in just a short time, and from him he was also learning math, rhetoric, and Greek. Dominican education. Rizal and the Dominican Agustin de Viana, chairperson, Department of History, University of Santo Tomas, connection with the land result connection with the Dominicans began even before he was born. During the late 18th century, after his conversion to the Christian faith, Domingo Lamco Rizal Chinese great grandfather was befriended by the Dominican who sent him to Binion where he helped con- construct the irrigation canals in the state managed by the order in 1833. The Dominican purchased the Calamba state south of Binian from a Spanish layman and opened to tenants. Sudden departure for Spain. The departure of Rizal for Spain was kept secret from Spanish authorities, friars, and even to his parents, especially to his mother, because he would not allow him to go. In order to avoid detection, he used the same Jose Mercado name of his cousins in Calamba. Peninsular Spanish education. Rizal's secret departure at the people minds Rizal was departure was simply because of his passion to complete his medical studies in Europe. The three secret seasons to make a name for himself in journalism, to observe the European society, to prepare himself in liberating the Filipinos from Spanish tyranny. He left Calamba for Manila and rode Salvadora. His brother Panciano helped him with his secret departure, changing his name to Jose Mercado. Rizals became a member of Freemasonry. Masonry is one of the world's oldest and largest secular fraternal organizations, whose members are concerned with moral and spiritual values. The fraternity aims to unite men of differing beliefs into a harmonious and productive community through the application of Masonic moral values and the practice of benevolence, intellectual development, and mutual respect. He admired the way these Masons scrutinized and criticized the haughty friars, a freedom which could not be practiced in the Philippines. On November 15, 1890, Rizal became a Master Mason in Lodge Solidaridad in Madrid. 2 years later, he was awarded Master Mason in Paris by Le Grand Orient de France. His main motivation for entering the society was to enlist the Freemasons helped in his fights against abusive friars in the Philippines. Rizal was planned to use Freemasonry to combat the friar use of Catholicism to repress and persecute the country patriots. Noli me tangere, an expose of societal ills. Jose Rizal's Noli me tangere was all about the descriptions of the Spanish colonization here in the Philippines and how the Spanish treated Filipinos badly. It followed the story of Crisostomo Ibarra, who came from Europe to study and returned in the Philippines. After his 7 years of journey, he reunited with these acquaintances, including his names Padre Damaso at Capitan Tiago's house. This novel has a lot of symbolism and real-life events that opened the eyes of the Filipino people during the Spanish colonizations to start the revolution and overthrow the Spanish colonizers. Every character in Noli Me Tangere has a role that depicts different rules in the Philippines society to fight for the freedom of the country. Germany during Rizal's time. Rizal stayed in Berlin, capital of Germany, to gain further knowledge of ophthalmology, to attend some lectures at its local university, to further his studies or sciences and languages, to get familiar with the scenic Germany, to be part of the scientific community, and to finish this novel, Noli Me Tangere. Blumentritt, Rizal lifelong friendship. Ferdinand Blumentritt was an Australian teacher, secondary school principal in Letmetris, lecturer and author of articles and books in the Philippines and its ethnography. He is well known in the Philippines for this close friendship with the writer and propagandist Jose Rizal, and the numerous correspondence between the two provide a vital reference for Rizal historians and scholars, including his last letter from prison before the execution. Reflection Cluster 3. Homecoming, its happiness and disappointments. Rizal was determined to come back to the Philippines for the following reasons: to operate his mother's eyes, to serve his people who had long been oppressed by Spaniards' tyrants, to find out for himself how the Noli Me Tangere and his other writings were affecting Filipinos and Spaniards. Pressure to leave the homeland. When Jose Rizal left the Filipinos for Spain, he was able to meet any people and visit many places. In each of Rizal's stopovers, identify a person or a place he visited. You may make a scrapbook or a travel journal highlighting Rizal's journey. American Year en route to London. After visiting the United States, Rizal lived in London from May 18 to March 1889 for three reasons: to improve his knowledge of the English language, to study and annotate Morga's successos de las Islas Filipinas, a rare copy of which he heard to be available in the British Museum, London, was a safe place for him to carry on his fight against Spanish tyranny. While in London, he wrote articles for La Solidaridad to the young women of Malolos and completed the London Quest. Rizal planned to use the exposition to launch the study on the Philippines by holding the International Congress of the Association in August in Paris. This was the main reasons Rizal left in the earth, London rather, in the middle of March. His energy and activities was focused on the preparation for the International Congress. He stayed in continental Europe. He stated content was no bed and roses. The cost of living was high and his own family, being a turmoil over land disputes, had difficulty sending him money. Rizal was not only in Europe to write letters to foreign friends and attend parties, he was there to study and eventually campaign for reforms. I guess Dr. Rizal just wanted mm, to widen his horizon, learn and explore what's in the other side of the globe, been doing, and somehow be brought back home to his home homeland, Philippines, to share to fellow Filipinos the knowledge and wisdom that he gained from there. Frustration and intrigues in Madrid. During the social reunion of the Filipinos in Madrid, Antonio Luna became drunk. Because of Luna's alcohol befogged mind, he started uttering unsavory remarks about Nelly Bousted, whom he had a frustrated romance with. Rizal heard him and became angry because of his slanderous remarks and challenged Luna to a duel. Oh, boy. A guest of the Bousteds, Neil and Rizal met in the Bousteds' vacation home in Beatrice, France. When two get in a relationship, everyone was very supportive of them, including Antonio Luna, who at the time also had feelings to her. Also, Nelly wanted to Rizal to be converted to Protestantism. El filibusterismo, agent provocate, promised to fulfill this duty till his death. He dedicated El filibusterismo to the three Filipino priests because they are the ones who inspired him to do everything in the first place. Their deaths led the rise of the book which will open our mind and hearts that colonization would be at the end. They questioned Spanish authorities and demanded reforms. The martyrdom of the three priests apparently helped to inspire the organization of the propaganda movement, which aimed to seek reforms and inform Spain of the abuses of its colonial government. Mm, This sparks the beginning of the propaganda movement and the later on led to Philippines revolution against Spain. Mm, Reunited Family Hong Kong. Family reunion in Hong Kong before Christmas of 1891. He was gladdened by the arrival of his father, brother, and Silvestre Ubaldo in Hong Kong. Not long afterwards, his mother and sisters Lucia, Josefa, and Trinidad also arrived. The Christmas of 1891 in Hong Kong was one of the happiest Yuletide celebrations in Rizal's life, for he had a family reunion for the time the Rizals apparently considered settling down in Hong Kong. January 31, 1892. He wrote to Blumentritt recounting the pleasant life in Hong Kong as follows: "We are living here together, my parents, sisters, and brothers, all at peace, far from the persecutions they suffered in the Philippines. They are very much pleased with the English government." Mm. Reflection Cluster 4: Angst in Plundered Paradise. Rizal had become a shining symbol for reforms and change. The Katipunan drew inspiration for him and formed some of the foundation of its creation. It's very clear that Rizal deaths drew out the nationalism, inspired and pride from the most Filipinos. He did not become a national hero for nothing, that's for sure. Still, his works, the biggest contributors, El Fili and Noli, life and deeds will still hold relevance in today's modern Philippines. Banished life in a Jesuit town. Rizal lived in a far away Dapitan, a remote town in Mindanao, which was under the missionary jurisdiction of the Jesuits from 1892 to 1896. These 4 years interregnum, his life was curiously unexciting, but was abundantly fruitful with varied achievements. He practiced medicine or pursued scientific studies, continued his artistic and literary works, widened his knowledge of languages, established a school for boys, promoted community development projects, invented a wooden medicine for making bricks, and engaged in farming and commerce. Despite his multifarious activities, he kept an extensive correspondence with his family, relative, mm, fellow reformists, and eminent scientists, scholars of Europe, including Blumentritt. Lotto winning. When Rizal received his share of the lottery winning, he gave some to his father and his friend Basa, and the rest he invested by purchasing agricultural lands along the Talisay coast. Rizal and Father Pastels had a long, scholarly debate on religion during his excites in the Pitan, but despite their religious difference, differences, they remain good friends. Rizal and Lardent's almost duel was foiled by a business transaction concerning loans that were of poor quality. While he was in Dapitan Rizal, a family took turns visiting him and he lived somewhat of an idyllic life. The Katipunan of Collection. Mm, the Katipunan was a Philippine revolutionary society founded by the Filipino anti-Spanish people in Manila in 1892, which was aimed primarily to get independence from Spain through revolution. The society was initiated by Filipino patriots Andres Bonifacio, Teodoro Plata, Ladislao Diwa, and others on the right of July 7. When Filipino writer Jose Rizal was sentenced to banish to the Pitan, initially Katipunan was a secret organization until its discovery in 1896 that led to the outbreak of Philippine Revolution. Rizal's trial by Consejo de la Guerra. The trial of Rizal is the most famous in history in the Philippines. Not because he is our national hero, but also what is the reason he died. He didn't die because he is protecting himself of, or his family. He died because he protect all the Filipinos. These trials of Rizal is really a mistrial. It was a big joke from the very start and it was completely trash. if I would describe that I want to poke. Pookie? Poke. Because as I said, he died because he protected us. The greatly enrages me so much that I can compare those Spanish authorities at the time to wild animals possessed by evil. They they were way too much, and hate is not enough to describe in words how I feel about them. Those Spaniards really get to my nerves because if they didn't kill Rizal, I think he will going to free our country with their hands. He will still write many poems that in this day it will inspire us. But Rizal died because of nothing. During his long march, Rizal saw familiar faces and places. His, he spent his time reminiscing his childhood, the fun he had with his family and friends in the Bagumbayan field. Rizal shook the hands of the two priests and his defender, bidding them farewell. Mm, a priest blessed and offered him a crucifix which he gently kissed. Rizal had one request, is that he be shot facing the firing squad. However, in vain, since the captain of the squad ordered a backshot. As such, Rizal has no choice but to turn his back. A physician by the name of Dr. Felipe Ruiz Castillo was amazed that Rizal's vital signs were normal. Particularly his pulse rate was Rizal really unafraid to die. On the on the retraction controversy, we all know that Jose Rizal is our national hero because of the novels he had writing during the Spanish period. These, these courageous acts of rebellion against the colonizer, he has been the symbol of our country's freedom. But at the last moment of his life, he retracted everything he had ever said and written because he declared himself as a Catholic, Catholic and this has been the greatest controversy which is talked about Rizal. People are still debating nowadays because they want to know the truth regarding about this controversy and if Jose Rizal really retracted. On the provenance of the retraction, on my own understanding and view of my learnings about our national hero, again, as I see things about that, Rizal didn't retract. Actually, he even revolted. However, not in typical meaning. It was a silent revolution. He didn't use sword and all physical deadly weapons, but rather just like as a famous metaphorical sentence. Example: a pen is mightier than a sword. Yes, he wrote to revolt his books. Nole me tangere and el filibusterismo speaks about he revealed abuses in the government. On the falsity of the retraction, we all know that Jose Rizal is our national hero because of the novels he had writing during the Spaniards period. Mm, these courageous acts of rebellion against the colonizer and he has been the symbol of our country's freedom. But at the last moments of his life, he retracted everything he had ever said and written because he declared himself mm, as a Catholic and this has been the greatest controversy which is talk about Rizal. People are still debating nowadays because they want to know the truth regarding about this mm, controversy and if was Rizal retracted. Opinions regarding this issue would not be the same because some may agree and some may not because of lack of evidences and different statements coming from people. Based on the evidence that was discovered by Father Manuel Garcia in 1935 and the retraction letter itself, Jose Rizal indeed retracted his words and writings against in the Catholic Church.